A few weeks back, I gave a presentation comparing occultic beliefs with Christianity. That presentation is on my Rumble channel, and I highly recommend you check it out. Afterwards, I was approached by Dale Morris, who told me he'd come out of the New Age movement and given his life to Christ. So I drove out to Pakenham to ask him about his story. I'm here with Dale and Kim. Dale, you approached me a few weeks back and told me that you'd come out of the New Age movement and become a Christian recently. So can you tell me a little bit about what New Age meant to you? Because I know it's quite a big topic.
It's a vast topic, and I never really looked at it upon as a New Age aspect. For me, it was just a normality of how my life was going at that time. I guess if you look at it now as being more of a Christian, that's normally what your life is, and that's how you perceive it. So to me, I didn't see it as a New Age thing. I probably got involved into it, or my interest grew in it probably when I was about 18. And from there, I just wanted to look more into spiritual being, what evolves within myself. There was a real drawing to want to be able to heal people and also to hear from the other spiritual realms. So that's where it started to begin for me. So from when I was 18, I actually got to probably find out about a lady that was running meditation groups, and she was a highly evolved medium. So I went and saw her quite a few times, and she brought up about the fact that, she could see me doing this sort of work. I had spiritual tendencies there. I had a lot of spiritual beings or your guides around you. So for me, that's a big thing to hear, you know. It puts more onto the ego side of oneself than coming from a humbleness. And I suppose that was also because of my age too. So it just began a journey that I delve deep into, and very deeply into. So and I was into that quite deeply before I met my wife Kim, so who really wasn't into that type of thing.
Oh no?
No.
So how early on did you two meet?
I was turning 21.
Yeah.
So I'd been 2-3 years into this process.
And Kim, you'd not had any
not at all
experience with it?
No, not at all. It was just all new for me, so I just kind of really went with the flow. Really.
Well, it was.
It kind of was, because it was this new start of our relation. Like, we'd been together for probably 2 years, and more so got into it more, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what would you classify as New Age? How would you define it? Let's start there.
Well, I looked at more so New Age stuff was like the people into just a lot of crystals and probably burning more, you know, your incense, and they're just your probably just looking at different like your chakras and all that sort of thing, and using chimes and singing bowls, as they say, to work on vibrations within the body. So I sort of looked at that as a New Age thing. Singing bowls.
Singing bowls?
Yes.
What are those?
So it's an actual bowl that you actually use. It's nearly like a stick that turns around the bowl, and it releases a vibration.
Okay.
So it's like a humming noise, but it's working at a certain kilowatt vibration. So it actually works, heals around the aura of the body, can work on different vibrations within even households, everything like that. So there's different bowls for different sounds, different vibrations. So I sort of class that sort of under the New Agey banner, whereas everything I was sort of looking at by doing healing, Reiki, I sort of felt that wasn't really under that headline. But now looking back at it, it all falls under that one category. So, yeah, it was just my different perspective on everything. Because when people say, are you a part of a new age? And it's like, well, no. I think you want to label yourself different. And labeling is a big thing, I think, when it comes to that movement. Everything has a label, which, now in hindsight is, just has no right to sit there around you. So,
Right. Were people opposed to this new age label?
a lot were, because when I got further into it, I mean, I started off doing tarot, having tarot reading done to myself, and also then I started doing tarot reading. So I actually started with using tarot cards, and then I actually started having a lot of information I could hear given to me. Now not knowing where that source was, but it's amazing how accurate it is. And this is what gets you caught up in this web.
I was going to ask.
Yes.
If you were doing it, how often were you right?
Yes. I had probably around about a 90% accuracy.
Wow.
So a lot of the things that was coming out was, and that's what gave me this drive to want to do it, because I started with doing the tarot readings, and it was even some work colleagues that was with working with Kim actually came and saw me just for a tarot reading. So for me, it was just like, I'm still trying to find my feet, but the stuff that came out about past stuff involved around them, they were, they were a bit gobsmacked on how it came out. And so was I, because it was like, well, it just built confidence on that sort of thing. So then my next journey from there is I actually wanted to progress to do healing work and heal people. That was always my drawing and always something I felt strong about. And it progressed from there. The tarot thing was a bit of a little thing to sort of build my confidence, and then I sort of started to step away from that and started to get more interested in healing work. So which led to Reiki, which is another area where you go through. It's nearly a you got to go to a actual Reiki professional to have all these symbols actually placed within you. So if you look at it from an angle from where I'm at now, it's scary. It's scary to think of that. But at the time, you're actually, it's an initiation. So there's 3 stages to this initiation.
All right, I'm going to stop you there because you've given me so many different trains of thought to go down. I don't want to finish one, but I'm really interested. But first, with the tarot reading, can you tell me a bit about what the experience was like to hear from...
Yeah.
What your source was it?
Yeah. Well, first of all,
what was that like?
Well, first of all, you've got your tarot cards, so they pick their cards, so you just put them out in front. And I was still trying to learn on which card means everything. So they've got a specific way they're read, if they're upside down, reversed, and past, present, future, all that sort of thing. So as soon as the cards were coming out, I was sort of looking at the person, but even when the cards were there, I actually started first seeing visions, clear visions of their past, but then actually words were being attached to that. So it was just like
when you say visions, as in like you would physically, at least
I classed it through my third eye. So third eye visions, that's how it
so
was
separate to something like an imagination.
Yeah, it's totally separate, because it had something to do with that person. So I could actually was shown things that was from their past, their childhood, everything like that. And I'd actually write it down. So a lot of the times I was saying things to them, but a lot of it too I was writing down, because after my first initial tarot reading, it was a sort of a bit of a cut and dry approach, because I was still trying to process what was being said to me. Was that my mind? Am I just thinking that? And then I started saying things, and they were confirming what I was saying was true. Around certain ages was brought in. I'd see things of maybe their past house, them as a child, aspects of their family that no one knew about started to come out. So again,
you
it just builds
using leading language. It wasn't a trick.
Nothing. They didn't even speak. I just spoke, and then they'd clarify something.
Right.
I'd bring out. And so that's why I actually started to change things where I just wrote everything down. So I'd write everything down first and then sit after I finished writing. And then I'd talk to them and say what came out. So there was no way I could preempt exactly what was going to be said, or for their answer for me then to add on to that. So
this is the real deal.
So, yeah, so at that stage I was a bit like, wow, okay, there's something there. I don't know what's working with me. But I felt something around me very strong. Like very
So let's get back to Reiki.
Yes. I had some recommendations to me to who to go see, so went there. So it's basically, you're probably there about 5 hours. So you basically do a deep meditation, and then you go through this process where you basically nearly feel like you're in a bit of a trance state. And then you're having symbols placed within the palms of your hand. So they're drawn into your hands by the Reiki master. And then you definitely feel something changing within your space, and your hands actually create so much heat that it's incredible. You know something's changed. So, and then after...
Have you done too, Kim?
No, I haven't done any of this. No.
Okay.
No.
That's what I made.
So Dale's going through these things and...
Yep. And I knew what was coming out, like, because when they would leave, or they would say, wow, Dale's just brought up this, and this. And no one, not even my family, knew. And it's like, okay, that's pretty interesting. How did you do that? How can you draw something out that not even anybody knows? So I kind of just went, well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But see that right there, you can see the trap. You can see the trap in it all, because it builds your ego.
Yep.
And as much as you are humble in your space and in your heart, you think you're humble, people are saying, wow, how did you know that? How did you know this? How did you do that? And your ego takes over. And then that's where whatever it is around you is feeding off that. And that's now, as I say, I look at everything to where I am now and look back on that, and it's like, what was I actually feeding? And what was creating that? And something gave me, I'm not going to say it's a power, because again, that's coming from an ego thing, but there was something in my space that was giving me an insight into other people that is, it's a responsibility that is, you can't be taken lightly. And that's a lot of the part, which I'll speak about further in, that made me step away from it, because it was that level of responsibility just got too much, and there was reasons behind that, which I'll mention further in once we get more into it. But
sure.
I'll
stop you there, just because that was a good spot.
So I just got to be
saying low battery.
I was. Do you know what, Tim? Do you know what one of the downsides of talking about this? And that's what I was just going to bring up. Because it's bringing in this energy, it'll drain batteries. And this isn't a joke. This is what it does. It needs to feed off energy. This is part of my concern, and I've been praying today for the Lord to protect, is because this energy drains batteries.
Right.
Because I used to have people tell them not take your phone in when I would do healing work, because whatever energy comes in would drain batteries. Wow. Because it has to feed off every bit of
something.
energy.
Yeah.
Because I've been out of, pulled myself, and I've of course given my life to the Lord, it's taken all that away. And as soon as I started talking about it, it was like, I feel the energy building, and I thought the batteries.
I can tell with your voice, though.
Are you going to be okay talking about it?
Yeah. I've got to, because this is part of my deliverance. I have to. But I just need, after this, we're going to have to pray once we've finished.
Absolutely.
So, and especially around yourself too. So
Yeah.
I'm not doing this as a fear thing. It's not about that. I just know the energy when it builds.
But just to clear you of
Yeah.
the energy too.
Yeah. So
This is what we're going to do.
that one's plugged into power. If the power goes out, then you know.
Yeah, then we'll know. Didn't even think about that, to be honest.
Well, because it hasn't been in my space.
No.
It's been there, but I'm trying to
Clear
deliver
it.
from it. That's why the deliverance from this will take some work.
Just to explain, we had the battery on one of the cameras malfunction. Well, not malfunction. I was charging it up for about an hour before we started recording, and I've gone to record, and after 20 minutes, the battery was flashing that it was almost dead. Now, normally that battery is still at least half full after an hour to an hour and a half of recording. So, Dale, you were just telling me that didn't surprise you.
No, it didn't surprise me one bit. And the energies that come in, and when I was talking, I could feel it coming in very strongly. It's an overpowering energy, very, very strong indeed. I haven't felt that for quite some time. And what it does, it actually has to feed off other energy within the house, within the environment it's in. And normally it'll pick batteries to drain. And that's why it didn't surprise me that
It'll pick batteries.
Very much. It'll wherever it's draining power from. So it could be even from your normal power grid, anyway, because it's drawing it from every aspect, and a lot of it will drain batteries very quickly.
So, like the whole movie lights flickering thing, that's legitimate.
It is. It's a presence that's it's very powerful. So, and as I said, when I was talking before, I could feel it shifting in, and it's very I wouldn't say a suffocating energy. I know when it moves in, it's just strong. I start to feel different in myself. I can feel it wanting to actually use part of me to want to talk too. So I'm putting up things so that won't, because I do not want that in my space.
And I know I asked before,
So
but you're going to be okay to do this?
yes, very much so, because this is all part of my own deliverance. I know I've got a lot of work on it, but it's important, because if others can see this and actually recognize about it, because before, if I'd watched this, it would make a lot of sense to what actually takes place. So I think it's very, very important, indeed.
So we were on Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't actually know really what Reiki is. So you were talking about symbols on the palm. I'm quite aware of the extensive use of symbols in occultism,
Yes.
to the point that I'm coming to the opinion that symbols in general are not a good thing. But can you continue on with?
Yeah.
So you've gone for the first time. They've put the symbols. Your hand was hot, you said?
Yeah, very hot, like a heat that I've never felt before, but it's generating from the hands itself. So, and what these symbols do is actually initiates those points, or they class them as meridian points, energy points within the body's energy realm, to actually activate, and that helps enhance healing. So I started then, after having that first session of the Reiki symbols put in. You also get given those symbols to be able to visualize, and they have a certain name attached to them too. So when you're ready to go in and start doing healings, I never did Reiki per se, as in the actual way it's meant to be done. I actually did another way of healing, which is very hands-on, but used a lot more intuition, maybe channeling, but channeling not as in the fact that I was talking. I was channeling with internally, then I can transfer it onto paper once I'd finished with the person I was with. So I started down this venture where it was hands-on healing. It was about an hour the person would be on the table, so I'd work they'd lay on their back first. I'd work from their head down to their feet. It wasn't physical hands-on. My hands were always above the person, and they'd feel heat. They'd feel differences in their body. They'd feel like I was at different areas of their body when I was only on one certain area. And then I'd get them to roll over probably about a half an hour and then work on their back area and everything like that. So, and this was something that I had a real strong drawing to. And so once I started doing this healing work, again, once I'd finished, I'd normally tell the person, we're done, just lay there and relax. I'll get you a drink of water. And then I'd say, give me about half an hour, and I'd sit down and just write. I'd sometimes write 1 page, could be 4 pages of just information that came out, what I was being told, what I was being shown, what was in their body, what had to be changed, what things have happened, what experiences that happened in childhood. I got a lot shown, and it was, again, the start of it was, wow, this is pretty amazing. And then what happened from that was a lot of transformations for people were happening right in front of my eyes. I'd bring things out that was a lot from their childhood, a lot of areas that I didn't feel comfortable bringing out but said, and had people just emotionally break down in front of me on the table because there was things from childhood. It could have been from severe things like being molested as a child came out, and that's why they had blockages from that age. I was getting everything shown, and from word of mouth, I became extremely busy. This wasn't a full-time thing. This was something I was just doing after work. It then moved to having to do days on weekends. I was starting to get booked up for like 6 months in advance, and then it was moving out further than that. So, and then...
Were you getting paid for this?
I was, yeah. So they classed the money. I wasn't. Other people that were doing this sort of work were, Reiki work, were charging probably double what I was. I didn't feel right with it, but they say that the money is an exchange of energy. So you're giving your energy, you
like
need to get some
alchemic equivalent exchange.
Exactly,
kind of thing.
exactly. So that's what they want in. That's how they say you've got to justify that. I never felt comfortable taking the money, never did, but I had to because that's how they said it's got to be. You got to have an exchange of some form. So, and then I had a diverse range of people coming. I had it from high up in the police force, detectives coming to see me. I had probably people linked to nefarious ways, gangland coming in. I had every walk of life come and see me, but a lot of it was your normal, mums, dads coming in, people rebooking to see me, and then I realized there's a dependency, this codependency on it. People were wanting to see me within 2 weeks. I said, no, you've got to at least allow it. I can't get you in for at least 6 weeks. You can't have this dependency on me. And I started to see this thing on how this grows, it forms, it creates, it's a beast of its own. And I started seeing how what comes out that I was being shown actually started to affect me, because I'm thinking I'm being given something that I can basically destroy someone's life with this information. And then I saw someone that was being shown they had an illness, and they were nearly trying to give me an end date to their life on what I was being shown. And that was my turning point, when I said, I don't want to see that. And was telling this guide that was with me, that was trying to show me, talk to me, and I said no, because that's too far. I don't want to know. Now, I'm not even going to share that with the person. I said no. So basically, I personally drew a blind on it. I could visually pull a blind down on it and left it at that, because the process, what would happen is when I put my hands on someone, my whole vision of who they were changed to like they were nearly standing in front of me, and I could see all these different layers within their body. It was like looking at different lights, they call it the auric field, the auric bodies. So you're working on every layer of your body. So it's a different color to each part of the body. It's linked to your chakras within the body as well. So it's all these energy centers. So you're actually working on those. If they've had an operation, you're actually healing that part in this auric field that hasn't been healed. So that's how it works. So a lot of the time, it'd come up, and new people I'd say, well, you've had an operation here, this wasn't healed, blah, 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 blah. Like you've had something removed. Like if they had a kidney removed, they'd never tell me any of this first. I'd say that had been removed. We've healed it on the other levels. And then that's when you start getting shown illnesses that are in the body. And that's when it was like, enough. I can't do this anymore. So I ended up still having, I think I still had a lot of bookings. And I just said, I nearly felt like I had nearly having a breakdown on it was like nearly a human side to a spiritual side, and both were in conflict. It was like the human side's like, yes, but it's feeding the ego, and the spiritual side was like, something's not right. And the funny thing was, I used to do my healings a little bit different, because I actually called in Christ consciousness energy as protection, even from word go. And no one ever really went that way. But for some reason, it just felt right. So I'd always call it in, place Christ consciousness energy around my healing room, and always place crosses everywhere with Christ consciousness. And I never realized why. It was just something felt right. It felt like a protection for me. But it felt like whatever was moving in, and when I'd call, because I'd always have to call my healing guides in, it'd be like a healing guide, a doorkeeper, you'd call it. So they'd protect whatever's coming into that room. And then you'd call in that person's healing guide. So I'd have to start setting up energy. So if I was seeing you, tomorrow, I'd already be doing that work that night before, setting up, calling in your healing guides, calling in your protective guides as well to start to work with. So I'd start already feeling things, hearing things within my space. So it was so it's, sorry, it's
okay.
Yeah. But
what are you experiencing?
No, it's what I'm seeing. So this energy is strong. Anyway, so
So whatever had attached itself to you is still trying to find its way back in. Is that right?
Yeah, something's sort of moved.
Well, let's change tack a little bit. Let's talk about your coming to Christ.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something it won't like.
We have to, because of the power of the word of Jesus and Christ's energy. And I just want to ask in the name of Jesus to remove that energy that's standing right there, which is now moving back. So, sorry, it's just,
It's okay.
Yeah, and for those that are probably viewing this or hearing this is, what basically sort of moved in around behind you wasn't the energy I wanted to be viewing. So that's a overpowering thing. So what happened was I started to move away from not wanting to do the healing work, because I didn't want that responsibility. Had a lot of people keep asking me about it. And I just thought, I've got to move away from it. So when it was probably about well, coming to the Lord was probably an unexpected thing, really.
How did it happen?
Well, because when we look back and you look at the New Age thing, a God figure is just an energy. That's how it's portrayed. So the God is within you.
Yep.
That's how it's always looked upon. So it's not this, well, I guess it is an external thing, but it's really internal is how it's looked at. So for me, there wasn't this connection with God per se. So it was just this other higher being that all the ascended masters work with. So when we had to sell up and moved out with everything that went on with the COVID aspect. So we went travelling Australia, so in a motorhome, and I'd been given, we had good friends that were neighbours that we only unfortunately got to know once we had to move. But we'd been there probably 6 years and hadn't touched base with them. And they were a very strong Christian family, which is amazing. And as a parting gift, he gave me a Bible.
They gave both.
Yeah, both the Bibles. So it was a bit like, okay, that's all right. And he said, can I pray for you? And I said, sure. I had no issue with that because there was something there. Something was really strong in my space. It was like a path was... Now I look back on it, it was like the Lord said to me, I've given you the key now and we've just unlocked the door. And when you're ready to open that door, it's there for you. So we travelled. It was amazing because we got to see, so much of the country. But although you're travelling I just felt lost still, so lost. And I'd say to Kim, a lot of times, we're looking at this most beautiful views, these fantastic places in Australia. And I said, I just
go and do what we want.
Yeah, I just feel lost. So lost. I don't know what it is. There's something so empty inside me that, and every time I'd pick up that Bible, sit down to read it, the words made no sense to me. I could not work it out. And I'm sitting there trying to make sense of this book. So what eventually happened was once we had come back to Victoria, I ended up getting a job here, back in the same industry, but for a different company, their competitor. And then it just so happened I had to go install a water unit at a house. And I was listening to Vision FM, Vision Radio, sorry. I'd always been connected to that. Even when we were on the road, we were listening to it. And
that's the only radio station we could get when we were travelling.
It was great. Christian.
It was.
Yeah.
In some places it was.
It was
right.
great.
Yeah.
As in like over the FM waves?
That was literally the
You could get that around Australia.
Yeah.
It's Australia-wide.
Oh, okay.
Vision.
Yeah. That's only the radio station we could get.
We were listening to the Christian music and it was like, wow, this is good. So when I was travelling to this job on this day that I had to go install at a private house, I was listening to Vision and I was just fed up. And I said, God, if this is, and Lord, if this is, if I'm meant to be doing something, if I'm supposed to come to you, I need a sign. I said, I've heard about this church because I had a friend of mine that we'd travelled with. He'd been to Hillview a couple of times and he mentioned it. So it was always in my space. So I said, if I'm supposed to go to this Hillview church in Roval, can you give me a sign? I said, otherwise I'm at a loss. So this house I pulled up at to go install this filter. Lovely lady lets me in. So anyway, she goes, sorry, here's the unit where you got to install the unit. I've just got a window cleaner here at the moment as well. I'm saying, okay, no worries. So I put my head under the sink to have a look where this water unit's going to go. And lo and behold, there she is talking to the window cleaner and she mentions Hillview Church. So actually, I physically hit my head under the sink because I lifted my head because it was something profound. And I looked at her and I said, I don't mean to be rude or interrupt, but what did you just say, Hillview Church? She goes, yes, yeah, Hillview Community Church. I said, in Roval. And she goes, yes. And I said, you do not realize that I've just asked for this sign and you've just produced it. And she goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? So I explained it to her. And then she told me her name was Zdenka. So she goes to the church and does paintings and everything. And I said, well, I'm going to be there the next Sunday. And
we
which
did.
we were. And that was my journey to actually realizing the power of the Lord, how he's so genuine and will actually, when you ask, he'll give you the sign. And he's always been there waiting for me to fully open that door. And then we went that Sunday, and I think we've been every Sunday ever since.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided.
There was one we didn't go and we were away, but we zoomed in.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a case of, Kim and I both went. We felt at home, and that's when I thought, no, I've got to take the next step. And I gave my life to the Lord in that February of this year, and it's been...
Wow, it's that recent.
It is that recent, and it's been a game changer. And the funny thing was that weekend that I'd given my life to the Lord, I had some very bizarre dreams after it, and it was like there was an energy presence that did not want the Lord in my space, and they were the most vivid dreams I'd had of this. It was a dark energy that was just trying to keep a hold of me, and it was amazing how this, in the dream, it was the gut-wrenching growl that could not get out of my space after I woke, and it was a guttural growl that did not want me to be with the Lord, be around that space. But it was amazing how that there was just this overpowering light that came in the dream and made it push back. So I looked at that as a symbolism of, yes, I've definitely made the correct choice, and the Lord is actually removing this and protecting me and making sure my path is protected from what I've gone through previously that I didn't actually see, and what I'd allowed myself to enter into. And that's a scary part, because when you look back, and I'm thinking how far in I'd got into the work I was doing with the New Age, or it's really occultism I see it as now, it's a trap. And everything New Age sounds wonderful, this New Age thing. It sounds like, there's fairies, there's all this sprinkled dust, everyone's cheerful running around, but you've got a blindfold on. It's where it's leading to is dark, very dark. And although you're doing what I thought was doing the right thing for people, to help them, to heal them, it's opening up a lot of hurt in people's places. And yes, it's part of healing, but what it does to them, it can tear a person apart, it can destroy a person, and it was really my doing. That's how I saw it, and that's the responsibility I took with it. And I felt like I wore, again, I guess the New Agey thing, or that is karma. That's what it was looked at. You take on all this other baggage, but I feel now that I've stepped to the Lord, and he's definitely released me of that, and is now allowing me to stand in who I am, and realize, drop that ego that was controlling me, and just be one with the Lord's heart. And
it's not healing
powerful.
for a fee.
No, exactly. And now I'm moving into and I'm doing a healing ministry course, and it's still within me. I want to allow now the Lord to use me as his tool to be able to pass that, and use his amazing energy to be able to heal people, but on a level that isn't going to destroy them. Like it was. So I've still got this desire to want to be on that healing pathway, whichever way it takes. And I think this is the direction it's moving. So it's from one place to where I am now is it's from, as they say, from dark to light. So it's an amazing process. So And the thing was with it, when we were doing all that too, I was starting to teach this to others too. So I was showing them on how to do that healing work. So basically, I was encouraging others to basically dabble in the same thing on how to do it. So now, again, hindsight, it's like, well, I was nearly endorsing.
Did you ever know fully what it was you were doing?
No, it's a realm.
Or did it just worked?
It just worked, and it just felt natural. So, and
Natural how?
because being submerged in it, it's not just a thing you just do as like a hobby. It became nearly, it was like you breathe it. So it got to a stage where I was nearly thinking about throwing in my normal day job to do this full time, and something was stopping me. So it was like, I think I had either guardian angels around me that were like, no, we've got bigger things for you. You're learning from this. That's what I took it from. We are showing you so you can help others. You don't know when or where it's going to be, but this is all learning. So I've seen both sides of how everything works. But I started, even when I was not doing the work, even during the day, or we'd walk around, you're talking to friends or you're meeting people or other work colleagues. I started seeing things around them. I started feeling energy around them, and it's a bizarre thing. You start to be able to read people. You know what's in their space. You know if they've got issues with their parents. You know where this is linked from, and you'd want to say something, but there was something again enforcing to me saying, no, do not say anything. You cannot say that because it'll tear them apart. But it's that ego within yourself, because you can see it, you can sense it, you want to share it. So it's a battle again with self. So that mind that gets driven by the ego is so powerful in this new age thing. That's why you see so many of out there, and they're all banging their own drum. They're spouting their own word because they know that they're this all powerful thing, and all they want to do is feed their ego and make money from it. And that's where I was shown different. And that's why I think it was guardian angels around my space, because it was like, no, that's not you. That is not you.
The people you healed, was that a lasting healing, or did it heal for a bit and then, I mean, obviously on the physical side, it was probably lasting.
For some it was.
Yeah.
Exchange, right?
Yes.
And my understanding of the way darker powers work is you get given stuff first, and then either it's taking it away that is used to control you, or it draws you in deeper to where you can't come out.
Well, that's one of the things. That's why I had to start saying to people, some people would only come to see me for, say, 2-3 sessions. So I'd always allow it to be a 6-week span, because, as I said when I first started, codependency was massive. Yeah. There are people out there that, as you know, they'll go to one for tarot readings. They want to know the best outcome. They want to hear the good things. So they'll just keep going to one, then they'll go to another, and then the next day they'll go see someone else, because they're just looking for that answer that sits well with them. So then when they'd come to myself, I'd say, you're going to get, I can't tell you what's going to come out. And I'd always, when they'd come in and I'd have that first little talk with them, I'd sit down on a couch before we went into where the healing area was, and I'd say to them, I don't want to know anything about your background. I don't want to know anything. I'm just going to explain what takes place. If at any time you feel uncomfortable, you come out of it and you actually get my attention. Because basically what would happen is I nearly went into like this deep meditative state, so like a trance state. So I'm not aware of anything around me, but I can still move around the table okay. I can work out where the person is. But to me, I'm just in another place, getting fed information, shown things on the person. So that's why I'd rather have not known anything about them when they first come in. So it's like the old thing, it's like removing layers from an onion. So that's what you're doing with the person. But some people would really work well with it, and that's it. They'd only need a few sessions. They got out what they wanted. And then I saw, there's a lot of people that had a lot of growth in areas, and there's others that were just so codependent that I'd have to say, look, I can't get you in for a few months now, and start to push it out, because I could already see it. I was their crutch, really. That's all they were looking for. They wanted the answer, but what I was giving them was healing areas, but they still wanted some answer that wasn't there, wasn't forthcoming. But as I said, once it started to get, each time I started to do more of the healing work, and how involved it got and how busy I got, that's how much more profound the things were coming through. The clarity of the visions, the words that were coming to me, the different the communication, everything was just at a level that had felt normal to me, and it would just flow. But it was just again, it feeds that ego.
Did your guide ever ask you to do things?
No, because a lot of the times I'd always ask my guide, which I was given their name, which I don't want to use because
No.
yeah. But yeah, it was never nothing that was, because that's why I still think there was guardian angels there, because it was like I was being protected, and yet I felt a protection. But again, that was that, as I said, it was like a duality aspect, because there's that protection, there's that light side, but there's also a darkness that is controlling really the show. So, and that's what it is in a way. It's a show, but it's a dangerous show because of how much can come out and how you can basically step into a person's space. So it's, yeah.
Did you have anything to do with astral projection?
I personally, no.
Okay.
But I've heard a lot of it, of how that works. And again, another area that in a way, I guess it's, glad I didn't. I mean, a lot of that too can also take place when you're asleep in dream state. So I had a lot of where I felt like I was out of body experiences, which is classed as on the astral plane. But yeah, I definitely used to always ask guides to, I don't want to do that. Take that back, because that's a sense of no control, where you fully have no control over anything. And it nearly feels like that's the place where anything can take place. And yeah, there was areas where I sort of wanted to draw a line on and have a sense of control. But that's what I mean. The vastness of the new age, what they call it, is it's a highway that once you're on it, it can just expand into a multi-lane freeway that can give you everything you think you want. And even lots of, wealth, because that's how it'll work. It'll feed you. And basically it is. You're basically selling yourself to locking into a contract. So it's a scary ride.
As you said at the start, always comes at a price.
It does. It does. Everything's got a price when you're dealing with a beast of an energy like that you think's harmless. I mean, everyone. I mean, most young people out there, they're into the fairies. They're into everything like that. You've got your fairy realms. You've got this other realms. There's very dark realms out there as well, which again I was aware of with doing this sort of work too, because also with earlier on used to do a lot of meditation work. They did a lot of channel work as well, so where you'd actually stand and allow a being to talk through you. So which is again another thing that I guess brought that communication stronger to me, because I guess I was nearly like a beacon to the energy, so that it could just use my energy to verbally speak through, and so I did quite a few of those things as well. Which you really don't know what you're saying, and most of them were recorded in the spaces, so you have a listen afterwards, and it's not really you speaking. They're just using you, and it sounds all like they're giving you, inspirational things, but I think there's a little catch to it where they're actually locking in some of their little beings, and basically it's nearly like tunnels or portals to your space that they can activate and move into at any time. So there is there's a bit of work that I've still got to
At any time?
out. Yeah, at any time. I used to have to, every night I went to bed, I used to have to actually physically see my energy being closed down. I had to, because if any of it was after I'd done a session and then felt like it was still open, I couldn't sleep. I was getting messaging, I was getting voices, I was getting everything in the night. And so you got to learn then to what they call ground yourself, close all your energy centers off, ask for protection. So it's nearly like you're forever looking over your shoulder. But again, it comes back down to, well, the ego keeps telling you one thing and everything's all good and everything like that. So it's nearly like sometimes you drop your guard. And I think that's the way it's designed to. So, bit of a roller coaster for Kim though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like for you?
Oh, look, some of the time it was kind of there, but not really. And so I'd just leave it be. I'd be like, well, kind of just not sort of communicate really as such. Like,
yeah, it was hard. I mean, even because where I was doing the healings was a back room in our house too. And when our daughter came along, so when we had our first daughter, I was still doing healing work. And then I guess when she was a toddler, she actually started seeing visions and beings in the house. So that's when they're definitely there. And it's very, very
apparent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the spiritual realms are scary, because we'd always try and explain, because she'd always say, "Oh, look, there's someone standing there," and I already sensed there was a being there, and then she just confirmed it. So
She thought there was someone standing.
Yeah, she
could
literally
see-
like
she
a
could just
person
see
standing there.
beings in the house, and
And they look
lights.
like people to her, or?
Yeah, well, it'd just be like an outline. It looked like a person, but that had no face. So no real distinguishing features. It was like an outline of someone she could see, or an elderly person she could see. She knew they were elderly, but there was no distinguishing feature to them. So...
And she would explain, like when she was talking, she would just explain, oh, there's, an old lady over there and she's wearing this or that, or... Which is really bizarre, because we're like, oh, how is that?
Yeah, but it just proved again how this energy just... It's basically you've opened your house or that area up, because as soon as you walked into the room where I did the healings, it was a different energy to the entire rest of the house. So it was like
How do you mean?
Sometimes it'll feel really, really light, like you just want to be in there, like a real calming energy.
Peaceful.
And other times it just felt heavy, like nearly a suffocating feeling. And it was like I tried to distinguish between the two, because I kept thinking, okay, that's going to be linked to the person I got coming into next. So maybe that's part of that energy that's there. So that's how I just sort of put it down to. But I think it's more so what was coming through that, say it's a portal or a gate that's been opened from the work I'd so many healings I'd done there. I think it was just like a vortex of energy that was constantly flowing, and whatever wanted to come in, and and was doing whatever it felt right or set its energy in there. So, and I think once our kids started noticing, it started being a bit more of a eye opener to us. So, but it never felt like an overpowering energy.
No, it was
to
never
the kids.
scary or anything.
Felt like, because they never got to. My daughter never got to a point where she was upset or didn't want to look at it. So I'm thinking, well, again, I get back to the guardian angel thing.
Yeah.
Was it an angel that was protecting her over what else was trying to be around her space? But it's just the I guess the level that it starts to manifest itself. Because once you're in that and you're working in it, you're just building and building the energy. You're forever calling it in. You're trusting that your healing guides, per se, your own spiritual guides, are there for your protection. But they're just feeding the energy. They're creating the energy just to flourish, to grow. You're connecting to more energies out there. You're basically like a magnet for this other energies that are out there. And it's it's a vastness that'll just keep, continually attaching to you. And you're forever, as I said, you're forever looking. Feels like you're looking over your shoulder. How many times I'd had like we call it spiritual attacks, where you feel like you've had basically a rod or something pushed through your back of your neck. It was that painful, and it's all part and parcel of what they call a spiritual attack, of not being able to protect yourself. So, and now I look at it, and it could be a level of an aggressive being or something that's just locked itself into you, and it's like it feels like your neck's just been stabbed, or your back. You'll have a piercing pain, and you've got to try and do energy work to feel like you can remove it. So it's just different things that would take place.
And was it trying to take your energy?
I believe so. There's days that you were just drained.
Drained how?
As in exhausted, physically exhausted. Even you'd wake up and you can't even get out of bed. You were that fatigued and tired, and it just feels like every ounce of your energy has been taken from you.
And it was explained to you that was your fault because you didn't protect yourself.
Exactly. That's then how you got to then learn on, okay, you got to close your energy down. You got to protect your energy. And so it was just this long line of things you had to keep doing.
If you did the protection work, whatever that looked like, did it always work? Or did it not work sometimes?
Well, sometimes it would, but majority it did. So I'd always, put out there for in my belief, and ask for the spiritual guides to honour my wishes to have a peaceful sleep where I'm not disturbed. So majority of the time it did. There was other times that, depending on who I'd seen that night also for the work, if it was something that was overpowering, because there was some people that came in.
People stronger than you.
Yes, yeah. And as I said, people that are into nefarious ways in their day-to-day life, which you don't know about when they come in, but once you start doing the work on them and you feel what's around them and what links are there, you're like, I'm not too comfortable with having them in the space. But then what they bring in too isn't good. So that's normally when those ones had finished. That was a bit of work to get that
energy
feel
cleared. Like
it's cleared, but no, I don't think it ever was. I think it's again just opened up another door for something else to come in. So that's how dangerous this is. And I could have kept going on, and probably made, in my terms, a successful business out of it, and could have probably gone out there and done teaching with it further. But now I look back on it, it was like I was feeding the enemy. I was, working with the enemy. And as I said, I believe that I had guardian angels around me that already knew. No, we've got another path for you that once you give your life to the Lord, you'll understand. And that's why, in a way, I've had to see both sides of how everything works out there.
You mentioned before your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that means.
So third eye is classed as it sits basically in the middle of your forehead. That's how they always depict your third eye. So when you start doing a lot of vision work, so I basically see a movie nearly. That's how it looked. So if when my eyes are shut, it feels like I've just got a film going or a movie or something being shown to whoever I was doing that work on. It was nearly like I could see them looking through their eyes as like they were a child or a certain age. So normally what would happen is I'd get an age given to me first, and then I'd start to see a vision, and then I'd also hear either their voice or something, part of a conversation then. So it was like I was nearly transported to being in their mind at that age, and whatever the significance was that I had to actually bring out or, put on the paper and tell them.
Yep.
It was normally linked to something specific, could have been traumatic, could have even been something. I mean, I had a lot of joyous things come out too, which was a nice change because I preferred that. I preferred having that come out so that, that's something that made me feel good. But nearly 80% of the work it's always something traumatic had to come out, no matter what it was. And that was always hard because I had to split my emotion. I had to take my emotion away. I couldn't have emotion. They're breaking down in front of me, some uncontrollably in tears. I was with a person that what I brought out was they had a feeling of from a childhood, and it was very traumatic what had taken place, and it got shown. So I brought it out. I was probably there an extra 2 hours with her because uncontrollable. She could not stop crying what it released. And it was like, I can't show emotion in sense, like give a hug or feel that, because I had to separate myself from that person. And that was hard. That was really hard. And it actually changed me as a person because I couldn't show my emotion. I find it hard now.
Yeah.
Even, yes, I can I cry easily when I know the Lord's with me. And that's a heartfelt emotion that I know everyone that's felt the Lord can recognize and know. But even when my wife Kim would get upset, I find it hard to show emotion, that empathy, even with my kids. And I'm thinking it's changed me to this heartless, soulless person that's there doing healings, but I've got no empathy. I couldn't allow myself to show empathy, and that hurts. I just felt soulless.
You couldn't allow yourself.
Yeah, because that's how I was shown through the healing work. I had to separate myself from that person. As soon as I showed empathy, I'm linking back into their energy. So it's that separation of the energy. So if I'd given you a healing and then things came out and you absolutely broke down, I have to keep that distance.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it makes you distance yourself from them because you need to
separated, isolated.
Yeah. Because once I get caught up in the emotion, then that's it. Everything pulls back from me. That means that their guides, my guides, pull right back. I've lost that connection. I've lost that energy to be. Basically, I'm being fed energy from the space. Once I connect solely with the human side, it goes.
Interesting.
So you're just working on different auric energies of that person.
So how is, you said the energy from God, how is that different from the energy that your spirit guides were passing on to you?
Every time I'd get guides talking to me, it was always a specific voice that would come in. It was very, not a real deep voice. It was just a very prominent, I don't know, it's hard to try and explain it, but it was a very prominent voice. I always knew when it was there.
And the same voice.
That same voice every time. And I knew, okay, I've connected. I knew them, as I said, knew them by name, but they never said my name, which was interesting. Never, ever once, looking back on it, because I know now when I journal that, I get called by my first name. And that's one thing I recognized was like, wow, my so-called spirit guide never, ever used my name, not once. So, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. Was it the same being every time? Did they even know me? Or was I just this soul connection that they were just working with? So when I now journal quite a lot, talking to the Lord and the Holy Spirit, and it's a energy, and it's a communication that is just feels pure, and it's a different tone. It's just this gentle tone. It's gentle, but it's concise, and the Lord uses my name. He says, Dale, and it was like, oh, it's the first time I wrote it down, because again, when I journal, it's nearly like when I used to do my channel work, but I'll just write. I'm happy to write because I'm getting all this information. Then I read back over it afterwards, and it's like, wow, it's on a different level. That's just purely heart level that takes the mind out of it. Whereas working with the work that I was doing with healing work, felt like it was being channeled through my mind, my analytical area, and then working through my heart as a secondary to try and feed that out. So it was a reverse projection. Whereas I feel when the Lord, well, not when I know when the Lord works through me, it's directly through my heart. It never comes in from anywhere else. And it feeds there, opens my heart up, and allows that to flood over the being, then to work both hemispheres of the mind, to work with the analytical side of writing as well. So it's just this beacon where it was the opposite, total opposite. And I know that feeling. That's why I said it was more of a third eye thing. It was coming in through the top of the head, working its way down, where the Lord works directly with your heart. The heart creates it all. So, and that's the thing that separates the two. Yeah, it's powerful.
Right. That's a lot to
take in. Yes, yeah. But as I said, like before, when I started to get, I need to explain when I was getting a bit shaky, and that the energy that was starting to step in was part of the being.
You looked
that I worked, but it was coming in over your shoulder, and I could actually see it.
You looked like you were looking past me.
Yeah, it was moving in. I could see it moving in from behind, and I didn't want it. I was telling it to go, and it said, "I'm not going. I have power over you."
Why behind me?
Because it wanted to project. It wanted me to see it. It wanted me to know that it hasn't gone. But with the Lord, with Jesus' name, he was just moving back. And then when we said in the name of in Jesus to step back, he went.
Do you see a lot of New Age style beliefs or practices in Christianity? Well, in not Christianity, in churches, in people who call themselves Christians?
I think there's a lot of it in the mainstream churches. There's a lot of them are more so linked to the darker side than what they like to believe. A lot of the symbols, especially on when we look at the Pope, we go down that track, is all linked to occultism symbols.
Did you see that back then?
Well, no, because I wasn't really
paying attention to the Pope.
No. But the funny thing was, I never had a a trusting energy around the Pope. Every time I looked at him, I couldn't. All the popes that I've seen, I had no energy connection, and it felt dark. So, and yeah, I'd find that with a lot of even people I saw on the street, I saw a darkness around them. So, but yeah, there's so much symbology in a lot of the mainstream churches that is very, well, let's say it's revealing itself a lot to the masses, but it's those who are actually paying attention.
Yeah.
And it's also those that are open to the light of it all, to the Lord, because those that aren't, or think they're following the walk of the Lord, a lot of it's masked.
Yeah.
A lot of it is controlled, and we know who does the controlling, and that's the thing. And again, it comes through that mind, it comes through the third eye, and that's where it connects. So it's there's a lot of cleansing to take place, but the Lord's doing it. God is, there's no stopping him at the moment, and it's only up from here, because everything's changing fast, very fast. So that's why I'm glad I got on the bus that was waiting for my seat to be taken, well, both of us, wasn't it, to have the seat taken, and then off we went. So it's a good thing. So
Yeah. Well, Dale and Kim, thank you for having me.
Oh.
This has certainly been eye-opening.
You're welcome.
Yes. No, it was a pleasure. Look, I'm so grateful to you to be able to share this, because as hard as it was, and for things that came out and through and showed themselves to me, it's an old part of me that I'm glad I've actually closed the door on. As I said to you, there's a lot more work for me to do and deliverance, but that's going to take place, and I know the Lord's got that all in control. The timing is when it's right. This is all part of it. This is part of my deliverance right here. And I'm so grateful to you, Tim, for being able to allow me to share this story, for both Kim and I to share this story. And I'm sure it's going to help many others that see it. And look, and for those that have never been involved in it, we'll open up questions. They'll see things differently. They'll realize the world just isn't this, carefree place where New Age, is this just a word. It's not a word.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful and controlling thing.
There's a lot of people with the wool pulled over their eyes.
Oh, very much so.
You're in a unique position now to be able to show them exactly where that wool is coming from.
Yes, so true. So true.
Funny turn of phrase, given the whole wolf in sheep's clothing thing.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you for your time, and I really look forward to hearing more stories about how God's going to be able to use this for his kingdom.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
amazing.
Definitely.
And,
Chapter 2.
Praise God for his deliverance.
Yes, praise the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching that interview. I really appreciate your feedback, so please leave a comment down below. I'll catch you next time.